Welcome to Byte of Science, your tiny bite of big ideas. Today, we're diving deep into something you've probably seen on pharmacy shelves a million times: fish oil. But, how did it even become a health staple? And what's it actually doing inside our bodies? Well, our whole journey starts with a pretty surprising medical mystery.
So let's kick things off with a question that for a long time just flew in the face of everything we thought we knew. For decades, right, fat was public enemy number one for heart health. But then this fascinating medical puzzle started to emerge from the icy landscapes of the Arctic, and it suggested that maybe, just maybe, not all fats are the bad guys.
So back in the 1970s, a couple of Danish researchers were seriously stumped. They were looking at the Greenland Inuit people, whose diet was incredibly high in fat. I mean, we're talking seals, whales, and lots of oily fish. And yet, heart disease was practically unheard of in their communities. It just didn't add up. This became known as the Inuit paradox, and it led scientists to a really powerful hypothesis. There had to be something in all that marine fat, specifically these things called omega-3 fatty acids, that was acting like a kind of protective shield for the heart.
So that really begs the question, right? What exactly are these miracle molecules? What's the secret sauce that makes the omega-3s in fish oils so special? Let's unpack the active components.
Okay, so the secret is in this group of fats called polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PUFAs for short. Now, the key word here, the one you really need to remember, is essential. That means our bodies literally can't make them. We can't build them from scratch. We have to get them from our food. And they're not just for energy. They are fundamental building blocks for, well, pretty much everything. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all omega-3s are created equal. You've got the heavy hitters from the sea, EPA and DHA. Then you've got the plant-based ones, like ALA, which you'd find in flaxseed. Now, ALA is still good stuff, but our bodies have to go through this whole conversion process to turn it into the much more potent EPA and DHA. And honestly, we're not very good at it. That conversion is pretty inefficient. And that's exactly why marine sources are seen as having a much more direct, powerful punch. So we know the marine omega-3s are the gold standard. But how do they actually work their magic? Well, you can think of them like a biological Swiss Army knife, just packed with different tools to help our bodies run better. We're going to zero in on their three main superpowers. First and foremost, EPA and DHA are absolute masters at controlling inflammation. That chronic, low-grade inflammation that's linked to so many modern diseases, this is where fish oil really, really shines.
And they do this with this brilliant three-pronged attack. First, they literally push out or displace the fats that promote inflammation from the walls of our cells. It's like kicking out the troublemakers. Second, they compete for the same enzymes, which basically dials down the production of inflammatory signals. And finally, and this is so cool, our body uses them to create its own specialized anti-inflammatory squad with awesome names like resolvins and protectins that actively go in and clean up the mess. And look, this isn't just a theory. A 2024 study, this one on rheumatoid arthritis, found that fish oil directly reduced synovitis, which is just a fancy word for inflammation of the joint lining. It's a perfect, real-world example of that anti-inflammatory superpower in action. Okay, let's move on to the next tool in that omega-3 toolkit: metabolism. This is all about how your body manages energy. How it decides whether to store fat or burn it.
And why is this so critical right now? Because globally, more than a third of all adults are overweight or obese. Just let that sink in. That's almost 2 billion people. This makes metabolic health one of the single biggest challenges we're facing, and it's an area where omega-3s play a really fascinating role.
So how do they help? Well, the key takeaway is that omega-3s work on a genetic level. They're like little managers flipping your body's metabolic switches. They effectively tell your body, hey, stop making and storing new fat, and instead start burning the fat we already have for energy. They also help your body get its signal straight with key hormones that control things like blood sugar and hunger, just helping the whole system run a lot more smoothly.
Okay, the third and final superpower is all about structure. Omega-3s aren't just sending signals.
They are the actual physical building blocks for some of the most important tissues in our entire body.
This is how they build the literal foundation for our health. DHA, for example, is a massive structural component of your brain and the retina in your eye. It literally helps build you. These fats also keep our cell membranes nice and fluid, which is absolutely vital for our nerve cells to talk to each other. And on top of all that, they even help our body fire up its own built-in antioxidant defenses, protecting our cells from all that daily wear and tear. So when you put these three superpowers together, the anti-inflammatory, the metabolic, and the structural, what's the real-world result? It's pretty staggering, actually. A huge study of the UK population found that people who regularly used fish oil supplements had a 13% lower risk of dying from any cause and a 16% lower risk of dying from heart disease. I mean, that is a truly significant impact.
Okay, so the science is clearly compelling. But what does this all mean for you and me? How do we take all this research and turn it into something we can actually do in our daily lives?
Luckily for us, the major health organizations have laid out some pretty clear guidelines. Both the World Health Organization and the American Heart Association recommend eating oily fish, think salmon, sardines, that kind of thing, at least twice a week. If you're someone who likes to track numbers, that gets you roughly the 500 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA per day that's linked to all these general health benefits.
And this brings us to a really common question, a debate I'm sure you've had. If you want to get more omega-3s, should you be focusing on what's on your dinner plate or what's in a little pill bottle? Let's weigh the options.
So, there are definitely trade-offs for each. Eating whole fish gives you this whole package deal of nutrients. You get protein, vitamin D, selenium, but it can come with some worries about contaminants like mercury. Supplements, on the other hand, deliver a pure, concentrated dose of just the EPA and DHA, and they're usually highly purified. Honestly, the best choice really depends on you. If you already eat fish a couple of times a week, you're probably getting fantastic benefits. If you don't, or maybe you need a higher dose for a specific health reason, then supplements are a super convenient and effective way to go. And all of this leaves us with a fascinating final thought. The story of fish oil, all the way from the Inuit paradox down to the cellular level, is a perfect example of what we call a functional food, where nutrition and medicine really start to overlap. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? As our understanding of this stuff grows, will the line between the pharmacy and the grocery store just get blurrier and blurrier? Liked that bite? Subscribe for more science in small bites. And remember, science is better when shared. So don't forget to like, share, and bite again.